So where we're at in time and space. So February 8th was the incident.
Yeah.
And what day is that phone call from him?
Probably the 12th.
Okay.
If I had to guess. I think the 12th. Because he flew to the States on the 13th. And then I flew to Walter Reed on the 14th.
So as soon as he came out of his coma, he's calling you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know he said all he can think about going in was you. And so now you're hearing from him, and they're moving him to Walter Reed. And now you're going to meet him in Walter Reed, right?
Yep. I had that one phone call from him, and that's the only time I heard from him until I got to Walter Reed. We got to Walter Reed on Valentine's Day, actually. He was in the ICU for maybe 3 or 4 weeks before he moved out to a regular room, but it was really bad.
So the first time you see him, what, on Valentine's Day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What, I saw some pictures, and we put a couple of pictures up. That's basically what you walked into?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How was that, walking into that room the first time?
Surreal. It's the only word I really have. Surreal.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're learning about all the injuries. And what did you find out? How many injuries, or what were the injuries?
So they didn't know exactly how many times he had been shot. They think somewhere between 8 and 10 times. Those numbers have got a little better as time went on. We have found out more and more, but he had a broken femur. He was shot in both hips. His elbow was shattered. His wrist, and then he had been cut from his sternum all the way down below his belly button. So he had a fixator on his leg, from his leg to his hip, and then he had a fixator on his arm.
Wow.
And at the time, I mean, the bones were still broken and everything. They hadn't repaired anything. All they had been doing were every other day he had surgery to clean out the wounds. They were washing out the wounds every other day.
That's unbelievable. So in the hospital, how is that for you? You've got the kids. Who's taking care of the kids for you?
So my mom had rushed down to take care of the kids. So she came down to Florida. Thankfully, we had a nonprofit help her with that because she had to take off work and all that. So thankfully, we had a nonprofit help her with that.
Who was that?
The Simplify Foundation.
Simplify? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, thank you to them.
Mm-hmm. And then, so the kids were in Florida with her.
Great that you had that. So what's your daily routine there with the hospital?
I was staying in the hospital the whole time. His brother was there with us. So me and him would take turns a lot. They have a hotel, close to the hospital, and we had rooms there. So me and his brother would switch and go get some sleep, come back, go get some sleep, come back. So.
Where's your mental health during all of this?
So I was really good. I don't know how. I was really good for a significant portion of the beginning. I don't know if it's any better under pressure or what. But I was really good. One day I finally broke down. But I was okay. I wasn't hysterical, which was good.
So the hospital, Martin said he was there about a year.
Yeah, so he was at Walter Reed for 4 months, I think. And then he went down to Tampa.
Okay, so when he moved to Tampa, you moved down with him, or at that time you're
So this was during COVID. COVID started while we were in the hospital. Thankfully, Walter Reed grandfathered us in since we had been there for so long, because they had started a lot like no visitors, no nothing. But they let us stay because we had been there for however long. But when he went to Tampa, we weren't allowed to go, so I had to come back to Florida.
So you never got to visit him while he was in the hospital in Tampa?
I wasn't supposed to. Me and the kids would drive down, and he would meet us out at the picnic tables. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, think he got hurt in February, and he didn't get to see his kids until he went to Tampa, and technically he wasn't allowed to have visitors then. So, if we wouldn't have met him out at the picnic tables, who knows when he would have seen him when he got out.
Jeez. I know that was tearing him apart, and I have to imagine it was tearing you apart as well. Where was your head with all this? What was keeping you positive and keeping you moving?
I feel like I was so busy, I never really got to think about it much.
Really? You just stayed focused and driven?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because the kids were 2 and 3 at the time. So I was still busy with 2 little kids all the time. And then I was going to see him probably between every weekend and every other weekend. Wow. Eventually we found out right before he went to Tampa, we found out a lot of his pain was coming from his sciatica being severed. They hadn't found it at first, and he sat in that bed for months with it severed. Eventually they found it, and they did a nerve graft on it. But
again, he's so humble. I had no idea all of this. Okay, so when he finally gets released and now he's coming home, what kind of condition is he in?
He is in a wheelchair. They had given him crutches, but he was pretty much in a wheelchair.
Now, where's he at mental health wise?
A horrible place. Horrible.
Describe it.
So the incident itself, of course, made his mental health decline. Tampa was even worse, and then COVID on top of it was the bomb. I feel like I had to contact the head of the hospital in Tampa and be like, "What the heck is wrong with you guys?" Because they would not allow a psychiatrist to come see him. He had to do it over video because of COVID, and he's just not that kind of dude. Like, he can't look at his video and be like, "Here's all my problems,"
I don't know who could, to be honest.
Yeah. So eventually, after I called and complained, I knew at the time one of the congressmen in Florida. I reached out to him, and he went over there too. They got a psychiatrist in there.
Who was that?
The congressman, Michael Waltz.
Thank you, Congressman Waltz.
Yeah, he was quick to drop his stuff and I'll be there tomorrow. Like, he was great.
That's awesome. It really is. Okay, so you get Martin home.
Yeah.
His mental health is deteriorated.
Mm-hmm. Drinking so much.
So everything at home is status quo prior to you're running things. It's going the way that you need it to go, and you're able to balance it. And now you get your husband back, and it's not your husband anymore.
So even before he got hurt, every time he would come home, just because he was gone so often, it was almost like having a visitor in the house. He'd be here for a little bit and then gone, and we could go back to how we did things,
Right.
When he got home, it was hard for 2 reasons. It was hard because his mental health was in a horrible place, but also because he was there I wasn't used to having somebody there that long.
That's right.
So
I think a lot of people learned that during COVID, right? When husbands and wives were forced to be at home together 24/7, that wasn't what we were used to. We spent 4 or 5 hours a night with you, and that's what the norm is, and then we're deployed. So, okay. So now how's that weighing in on you?
Um, it was really rough. It was really rough. Um, in the beginning, it was more just trying to figure things out. He was drinking a lot, um, which in turn was hurting him physically even more. There was a couple times he got so drunk he fell. At the time, we lived in a 2-story house. He fell down the stairs. Um, it was really rough juggling him in that state and the kids.
I can't imagine. So what are you turning to for a solution?
Um, friends, I guess.
What
Friends.
what are they
Just trying
telling
to.
you?
So for the longest time, I thought it was just him because he was hurt. He was, going through all this. But then reaching out to other wives, I noticed the other wives were going through it too. And then reaching out to even other people that wasn't in the incident. It's a lot of wives, Green Beret wives in general, go through a lot of that.
We tend to use you guys as our punching bag, even though you're our rock. You're the ones we trust, and we feel like we can be ourselves around you because you love us. You absolutely love us. You chose to love us, right? And we need to do better. We really do. So he's medicated. He's self-medicating, and he's lost, and you're lost, and you're reaching out, and they're lost, and everyone's at a loss.
So eventually we bought a different house because of the stairs. So we moved up even further north. 1-story house on an acre. It's beautiful. Things were a little bit better for a little while. It helped him not having the stairs and stuff, and he had gotten on crutches at that point, so he was walking around on crutches everywhere. But his mental health still wasn't there.
Yeah, I can't imagine he's he's unable to take care of himself. He's unable to do anything that he used to be able to do. He went from being this Superman, so to speak, and now you're cleaning up after him. You're doing everything for him. And I think he said he had to take 10 medications that he needed and then 20 on top of that to counteract the side effects of the first 10. And then you add alcohol to that and the mental health aspect behind it, and just where's it going to go? Where's it going to end? So
He had a big box full of just medications. It was crazy. And in the hospital, he was taking even more.
yeah,
Me and his brother counted one day. It was like 45 medications or something crazy.
45 different medications, and all of them, they're all doing something different. How's his weight right now? What's he sitting at, you think?
So he was about probably 245 when he got hurt.
So he's still weighing that much at this time?
He started losing weight in the hospital, but it wasn't anything drastic.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on 45 medications. He's drinking, and you're basically trying to figure out anything you can to help him. How's your communication with him at this time?
At this time, it was okay. I was in a state of just trying to make him happy.
Sure.
Anything I did. He started gaining weight. because of the drinking, plus the wheelchair. He started gaining weight there for a little while.
Okay, I know a lot of the medications sometimes they tend to make you gain or lose. I was just wondering if he had any crazy body changes during all that medication. I know sometimes people do.
It could have been that too. He gained a significant amount of weight. He was bigger than I had ever seen him at without any of that.
Okay. So you're being as nice as you can possibly be to him. You're trying to make every day as special as you can.
Make sure nothing bothers him. The kids, the dogs.
How's that going?
Getting worse. It was getting worse. We started doing a remodel to our house. So we had to stay out in our camper during that remodel. And that's where it just snowballed.
That's tough. You got 4 people living in a tight space, and he's having a hard time moving around as it is, and that's got to be tough. Okay, so things are snowballing, they're getting worse. What are you thinking?
This is the time period that was most traumatizing to me. I didn't want to do the wrong thing to make him do the wrong thing, you know?
Of course.
I was mainly focused on the kids. I was trying to focus on the kids. Make sure he was okay, but make sure the kids were okay with all that going on.
Not thinking about yourself too much. Okay, so as it's getting worse, what ideas do you have?
So we had seen a podcast about ibogaine, and watching the wife talk on that podcast, I was like, I want to feel like that. I want to see that. I want to be there. So we started researching psychedelic medicine and ibogaine specifically.
Where were you at about, okay, as far as hallucinogenics, where was your head prior to doing any research? Was it initially a concern when you heard hallucinogenics? What was your thoughts?
I wasn't for them or against them. I was very, very open to it. I'm the type of person, I do not like pharmaceuticals. I have to have a migraine before I'll take a ibuprofen. Like if I have a little headache, I'm like, no, I'm not taking this. And so I'm not a big pharmaceutical person. I've always been more of a there's a herb for that type person. So I was very open to psychedelics.
Okay, so you're watching this YouTube, and you said the organization was which one?
Vets, Veteran Solutions.
Veteran Solutions. Okay, so you're watching their podcast.
Mm-hmm. So they were on. Who runs Vigilant Elite?
The Sean Ryan Show, yeah. Right? Okay.
So they were on the Sean Ryan Show.
Well, shout out to Sean Ryan for having those guys on. You you led Katie. Yeah, you led Katie to a life-changing thing. So thank you, Sean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I told him, I'm like, you need to do this. Like, look into this. You need to. And he's kind of, whatever. But I kept like giving him little crumbs, like, oh, listen to this. Look at this fact. Look at that. And eventually, I told him, like, get the money together because this is worth spending money on. Like, you need to do this for yourself. And he did. It was hard. It was hard getting him there, but he did.
So where was he open to it when you first showed it to him? What did he think? 'Cause if I remember right, he said he did not do any kind of drugs or anything growing up. He was, he was a pretty straight-laced kid.
So he alcohol was what was his thing. Like, he didn't do any drugs or anything like that. So um, he brushed it off a couple times. Um, but I feel like eventually he kind of opened up to it. It was our last straw. So it was my last straw. It was my last ditch effort. Like, this has to help.
Did he know that?
I think he did.
I think he probably did. I think it's, y'all have that women's intuition, and I think for men, we kind of know when we're about to get left, when we've pushed too far.
I was preparing.
Yeah. Well, thank God you didn't. So, all right, you lead him to this organization, Vets. How was that contacting them?
So I sent them an email, and they immediately emailed me back. Signed him up. They have a sheet to sign up.
Like an intake form or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At the time, they didn't have any funding. They put him on a wait list, and we couldn't wait. So that's when I told him, like, spend the money on it. It's worth it. Just go.
So out of pocket, they were, if you're willing to pay out of pocket, they were able to get him in right away.
So I got in contact with the lady from Vets, and she told us the facility that they use, the Ibogaine Treatment Center.
Okay.
And I contacted the treatment center, and they got him in very quickly.
Okay. Well, again, thank God for all of these things, right? So Martin mentioned that just prior to leaving, things were getting really bad, where kind of threw up his hands and said, "I'm not going."
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't talk to him for 2 days. And tell me about that.
He I don't even remember why we were fighting, some little thing.
It doesn't take much.
Yeah. He got to the point where he was leaving us. He was gonna empty the bank accounts into my account. We weren't gonna ever see him again. He wasn't going to do the Ibogaine. He was just gonna be gone. So at this point, we've been through this so many times that I get to where I just try to, like, make sure I don't say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I don't fight. I don't just, okay, like, agree. I ended up calling his brother. Well, I texted his brother, and I was like, reach out to him. And then I texted another friend of ours, reach out to him. And even then, he's like, I can't talk right now. Like, he was just so out of it. He's like, call him right now and get your money back. Call him right now and get your money back. So I'm like, okay, let me write down what I'm going to say, and I'm just trying to waste time. Eventually, I believe it was his brother got a hold of him and kind of calmed him down. But it was very hard. It was hard. Somehow I got him on the plane.
And those are the things that other people are going to struggle with as well, trying to get their veteran, their brother, their husband, their wife, trying to get them through that season, right? You said it's kind of the same old thing. I've seen it happen before. It's happened again. And getting them through that's the most important thing if you want to hold on to them.
And when they're going through that, it's the smallest thing will set them off. Like, they're already at this height. Like, they're at a point that the smallest thing will push them over that threshold, and they'll just, there's no calming them down from that. Like, you have to just wait, I feel like.
It seems like when it's getting to that point, it's more along the lines of, we look at it as we're the problem for everybody. We're the reason she's mad. We're the reason she's scared. We're the reason for this. And if we weren't here, since we are the problem and we're problem solvers, if we weren't here, then they wouldn't have these problems. And I don't think, a lot of people like to say that suicide is a selfish act. And I'm not saying that I agree nor disagree, but what I'm saying with the guys that you and I know, they're not doing it because they're trying to be selfish. They're trying to solve your problem because they think they're the problem. So thank God you saw that and we're willing to stick it through. So, all right, his brother basically has to kind of calm him down at this point. You get him on the plane, and he talked us through his side of that. Where are you at now?
I was scared but hopeful. Praying all the time. All the time. I was excited. I was hoping that I would get my husband back.
Okay. So anticipating that that Friday that he's coming home. I think he said he flew back in that Friday, right?
Yes, he left. So he left Sunday. The the treatment center started on Monday. They picked him up Monday morning, and then he flew back Friday. Yeah.
So you met him at the airport?
Mm-hmm. So I had one phone call in between, which was after he had done the treatment, and I could tell it was so different. So different.
Okay, so you meet him at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? Talk me through it.
So normally, especially with his injuries, after a day of flying, he would have been miserable, like grumpy, miserable, like just get me home. I pulled up. I didn't go inside to get him. I pulled up to pick him up, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And he was thinner. He was thinner. He was lighter. His face looked so much lighter.
Like he left a lot of things there, huh? So homecoming is good. I saw a picture or two of it.
There was even on the way home. I was driving home, and this Jeep was doing something weird. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like, like driving. Like, what is this car doing? He's like, "Babe, shh, it's okay. Just calm down." And I'm like, "Okay, I like this version of you."
Right on. Yeah. Okay, so I want to say around this time is when I finally met Martin, right? So it had been a little over 3 years since the incident.
Mm-hmm. So his treatment was in the beginning of May of 23.
Okay. And when I met him, it's like you were describing, big smile, it seemed very happy guy. How was that time having him back at home?
It was amazing. It was great. So it was in May. We had our pool open. We were swimming. The first day he got back. So he got back on Friday night. Saturday we spent the day in the pool with the kids, and I never thought we could be there where we were.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So how long did that last?
So when they come back from medicine, I feel like they're almost on this high. Not that they're high, but they're like super happy, and then they kind of mellow out as time goes on. I mean, he's still a completely different person. One of our friends said it really well. So his bad days now are still better than his good days before.
It sounds amazing. Okay, so as you're seeing him come off of this high, how is he back with the family? How are the kids? How are they getting to know the new father?
So the kids never liked hanging out with him very much. He was gone all the time, but then once he got hurt, he was drinking or grumpy or, they never liked hanging out with him very much. They have such a strong relationship with him now. It's amazing.
They're beautiful together. I was just out in the yard, and they're out there playing, running around with my daughter. They're having a great time. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so about 6 months before he goes to the second sitting. Now, with it kind of being, it sounds like a bit of a sliding scale. He comes back on this high, and then maybe it's sliding down just a little bit, but even still, his bad days now are still better than his good days then. So he goes to he gets the call from vets. They ask him to come back out and sit again, or let him know that. And now this time they're willing to fund it. They're ready to help him out. Thank you again to them. Please give them some support if you're watching this. So he's going back the second time. How are you feeling? Much anxiety on this one? Are you hoping for a big change this time again? What are you expecting him to come back?
So I wasn't really sure. So before he went the second time, he would get irritated, but he would recognize it, when he was starting to get kind of on the go again, like that. Mm-hmm. He would recognize it. So, but he had told me from the first treatment that he knew he would have to go a second time. So I knew that it was going to come eventually. Sure. I didn't know when. But he had told me that he was thinking about when he was going to go again and everything, and vets happened to reach out. And it was good timing, I guess, because it was right when he started talking about it again. So right when it was supposed to happen.
It's a timing thing, right? So, okay, now he leaves. He comes back. He reached out to me pretty early on when he got back, but I don't know how soon he reached out. So how is he coming back the second time? Completely normal.
He did not have that high that with the first one at all. Completely normal. I told him, I was like, I never would have known you went if I wouldn't have known you went. Like, but even the second time, he's grown so much.
I was talking to him a little bit earlier. He said somebody is coming back into his life that's been out for a while, and so that brought back some things that he didn't think were still there a little bit. How's he able to deal with that kind of thing now?
I feel like he is so much stronger. So much stronger. He can control his mind more, if you know what I mean. Like, instead of just letting it go from 0 to 60, like, he can pull back a little bit and be like, oh, let me think about this a little bit and work things through in a better manner than he used to.
He said he's much more accepting now of things, and I appreciate that. I think that's we can all take a lesson from that. A lot of times we just need to swallow our pride, look at it from somebody else's point of view, and be open to that. We spend so much time pointing out our differences, and it's like we have so many similarities. Let's focus on those.
And everybody, you never know what somebody's really going through behind that. You might get into it with somebody, but you don't know what's really going on in their life.
No, not if you're not out there trying to get involved with them, right, and trying to have those conversations. I'm sure you had the team wives there that were reaching out, that were trying to be there for you, but how long can that support, really go on? Where before it's like, hey, sorry, girl, like I got to kind of get back to my thing. And I think people forget about that, right? It's not because it's not still there. It's just time goes on, and it.
Everybody has their own stuff going on, They got their own family. They got life. Life's crazy. I know for me, 3 weeks will go by, and I'm like, what? Where did time go?
Right. Well, you're in school. You're still in school. What are you studying for now?
Social work.
Social work.
So I went back to college.
So how are we going to continue to morph Team Trek podcast and Katie and work in the mental health piece together?
I am going for my master's. I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with it, but I know I want to work with vets. I want to work with veterans, so I do know that.
Well, they'll be lucky to have you as their therapist. Are you gonna? Do you feel like you want to get in the realm of medicines or more counseling? What are your thoughts on that?
So when he was hurt, the Semper Fi Foundation, they are amazing. Simplify America's Fund. America's Fund is their army part, but so Simplify America's Fund. It's a foundation. They have their Simplify section, but America's Fund is like their little army side. They Karen from Walter Reed met with us and got us set up with them, and she works for Simplify. She's absolutely amazing, but that foundation has helped us more than any other foundation.
Okay, well that's awesome. So Karen, you said she works over at Walter Reed. What is her position there?
She works for Simplify.
She works for Simplify. Okay, and you met her. Well, okay. Well, Karen, thank you so much. Simplify, that's awesome. It's not, even though it's a Marine organization, right? And I think vets. You mentioned vets. Tell me a little bit about them too.
They fund people to go do this psychedelic therapy.
Did I hear they were a Marine organization or Navy organization? Do you know what their affiliation is, or if they have one?
Navy.
Okay.
Navy, I believe. But they're doing all kinds of research too. So on ibogaine, which is fantastic.
That's awesome. I know there was just a paper published. I think it was Berkeley published a paper recently on that. They did a study with, I think it was 30 special operations veterans that they put through that. So if people are interested in that, definitely there's a couple of organizations to reach out to. All right, Katie. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode then. We're going to bring you back. You and Martin are going to sit, and we're going to bring everybody up to date on where we're at and where y'all are wanting to go and what the future's looking like. So thank you again. Would love having you.